just teaching employees, you know, obviously they know how the process works and they know how automation works in their business, but really educating them on how AI can impact and help them in the business is the most important thing, right?
Is AI a real opportunity for JD Edwards, or is it just the latest buzzword? And what should you actually be doing today to prepare your business for it? In this kickoff episode of Not Your Grandpa's JD Edwards, we're unpacking how AI is being integrated into JDE, the risk you need to watch out for, and the steps you can take to stay ahead. Whether you're skeptical or all in, this episode delivers practical insights to help you make smarter decisions in an AI powered ERP world. Welcome to Not Your Grandfather's JD Edwards. I'm your host, Nate Bushfield, and today we're joined by an AI advisor from ERP Suite, Drew Robb. Drew, thank you for joining us today. Just going to ask you a few questions about the topic of AI risks and the remedies behind that. So let's just dive in.
Awesome, Nate. Sounds good. Glad to be here. Excited to talk with you about AI risk and remedies and kind of our perspective at ERP Suites with how we kind of mitigate those risks and get you ready for AI and on your AI journey in your company.
All right. So, on the topic of AI and the risk behind it, what are some of the biggest risks of using an AI ERP systems like JD Edwards, and what mitigation strategies can businesses kind of implement?
Yeah, it's a great question, Nate. So a lot of strategies and a lot of things that are issues with implementing AI into JD Edwards. It's the biggest thing that comes to mind is security, right? Security and compliance. You as in your company already have a security structure in place. You have policies in place. You have a whole security, making sure your data doesn't get in and out of your business, right? And the biggest thing is just understanding that um, you know there's a way to mitigate that risk and have a good security strategy around AI as well. Whether your data is outside of JD Edwards or you're using other third party, like you're using other third party systems, or whether it's inside JD Edwards, just that connection between JD Edwards security as well as ERP security is very important, right? And there's other risk and remedies or other risks we'll get into, but that's probably the biggest one that comes up. Another one that a lot of people think about is really job loss, right? So in your business, right, especially with automation, right, robotic automated processes is one that comes up. A lot of people at the company are just worried about losing their jobs, right? Really, what you got to think about with AI and AI in your business is actually enhances your jobs, right? It allows you to make more strategic decisions when you're working in your jobs. It allows you to be more proactive, right? More predictive when allowing making recommendations and solutioning, right? And actually providing recommendations on your data, right? We like to think is just leveraging AI is helping you in the business. So those are kind of the big two that
Yeah.
come to mind initially. So yeah, just
Yeah.
we'll leave it at that and kind of take it wherever you feel fit after this.
Yeah,
What
of
you
course. Yeah, we can dive in a little bit deeper into the job loss and automate AI automation if you want to go that route. So, how does AI automation impact jobs in ERP environments and even IT environments? And like, what steps can businesses take to reskill employees to get them ready for this?
Yeah, so that's an absolute great question. And the biggest thing is really just around, AI education, AI adoption, right? Just teaching employees, you know, obviously they know how the process works and they know how automation works in their business, but really educating them on how AI can impact and help them in the business is the most important thing, right? And how they can
Right.
use it to leverage their future jobs, right? And what they do and allow them to take more increasingly significant roles in the business. That's probably the biggest thing. So just don't be scared of that and just start to gain knowledge around AI and how it can use it in your business and really start to understand how it can actually help you in your job rather than hurt you, right? That's probably the biggest thing with the job loss portion. So
Yeah, I love it. I mean, yeah, we have to be training, have to be at the forefront. Completely understand that. I mean, got to take it from any normal human being out there that is competing with AI. They should really embody that and really start training themselves to outcompete, maybe, but to
yep,
work with it and to really come together and move AI into a different category than what it is right now. To circle back a little bit and go into mitigating AI bias and
Yeah.
going a little bit towards that direction. So, how can organizations detect and reduce AI bias in their JD Edwards systems to ensure fair and accurate decision making?
Yeah, and this is a really good question, Nate, that you bring up. It's AI bias is well out there, right? The biggest reasons you come of it, and if you're working with AI right now and you haven't really established it inside of your business, is working a lot with, products such as or software such as like ChatGPT, right? So you're out there, you're trying to get it quick information, right? It's not sensitive data. That's the important thing, right? You just kind of get quick information. Sometimes it's not, it's not accurate, it's not correct. The data may be misleading. It may be outdated, right? And because software like that is just going out and grabbing whatever data is out there, right? And really, what we're getting back to is having reliable data, right? And I'm not talking about just having data inside of your JD Edwards system, but really reliable data wherever you go out and get it, right? Up to date data that's clean, right? The duplicates are limited, and it's accurate, right? And the thing with bias is you just really don't want it to influence your business because you want it, yeah, because you want it to be reliable data, and that's the biggest way to kind of mitigate that is just making sure that you're not just going out there, right? And another big thing too is you got to think about bias is having human insight, having a human interacting with your data,
Right.
having a subject matter expert who actually knows that data that you're currently working with. And it's regularly refreshed. If you're working with AI models, the models are trained well, right? So
Right.
that's kind of the biggest thing. It will help, and when you train those models, that the data isn't as skewed,
Yeah,
because
of course.
it's working with your data repository, your internal data sources.
Right. And a lot of people would say that you're a subject matter expert on this. So it's great to hear from you directly from the source and learn a little bit more. But to stay on that data train, there's a lot of concerns about AI and data privacy,
Yeah.
governance, compliance. How should organizations approach AI security in their ERP system?
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing you gotta focus on there is you're gonna have your policies and procedures in place. Now you really gotta take a roundabout, not a roundabout way, but you really gotta take a step back and really look inside of your business before even implementing AI. Where is your current security right now, right? Whether you're using different technologies, whether you're using JD Edwards, is it in a good spot to even implement AI into your business, right? And there's different AI tools out there. What we talk about, and I'm trying not to get too much in the ERP suites, but we talk a lot about embedded AI inside of the JD Edwards system, and that works a lot with JD Edwards security. Which, if you're a JD Edwards customer, that's awesome because you work with that every day. You're familiar with it. Your security team's aware of it, and you understand how it operates. Now, when you start to talk about, security and governments and leveraging other tools out there, a lot of cloud-based tools at ERP suites, we use Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for our AI services, but there's other cloud infrastructures out there, just such as AWS, right, Azure.
Right.
And as you start to use these services and start to implement them, like how are you filling out good security policies, good IAM roles, good encryption, right? The biggest thing is moving your data from one place to another. Your data doesn't have to be stored in the cloud per se. It can be
Mm.
on-prem, but how do you access that data, right? And the biggest thing is just knowing that a lot of these bigger technology, these AI services out there, whether it be AWS, Azure, OCI, they provide end-to-end encryption, right? And as you
Right.
start to implement and add these services into your business and start to connect them to your various different ERP systems, JD Edwards, other data sources, just be mindful as a security team that you are giving the right roles to people, right? People are
Right.
accessing certain information that they can, right? I mean, I'm not trying to get too technical, too into the weeds, but someone who's working in manufacturing on a digital assistant shouldn't have access to someone who's working in sales, right? There's just
Yeah,
different
exactly.
roles of who access who and who's uses different processes in that space. So that's really important.
Of course.
It's a really important piece there. So yeah, just really having an overall data governance strategy and compliance with whatever business you're in, especially with medical, right? Compliance around that area. I mean, that's the overarching thing that we really look to do there is just having a really good strategy in place before you implement AI.
Yeah, of course. So would you say that that also goes with data privacy, not only security, but privacy, and making sure that data just isn't out there in the open where anyone can possibly see it? So, what are some sound steps to ensure data privacy and, well,
Yeah.
obviously security, but more of the privacy side of it?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, I mean, we go back to the, the data encryption piece, right? Especially if you're
Right.
working with sensitive data, like making sure your data is secure before you're running it through any AI models, right? And it goes back to bias as well. I mean, as you start to train your data, I mean, it all comes back to data is gold. You want good historical data to train your models because you want to get correct results in the end, right? We talked about bias before, and that's the inability to get, correct results after training your data, right? Because the data is skewed or not match
Very
what
true.
you want. So I think the biggest thing here is just, being able to have reliable data, right? And it's a forefront of it. Like you have to focus on that being important, right? Obviously security is important, but not having duplicate sources, duplicate records, in your data, not having missing data, right? And definitely just working on that you have good historical data to feed the models. And yeah, I mean, as far as data privacy, it's again having those good end-to-end encryption connections, right? And understanding again, as like I kind of talked about before, is just that you have certain roles and roles set up, whether it be JD Edwards or OCI roles set up, so you're not going to someone else's, you know, what data is not moving from one place to another, where and shouldn't be going where it is, right? Everybody who's working in the
Right.
company is working in their space, so
Yeah. I mean, seriously, thank you again for those insights. I mean, I know that that's one of the main things that I worry about is data security and privacy and making sure that everything stays where it needs to stay and we're not leaking any sensitive information or even personal information.
right.
Obviously, that's something that everybody really values, but it's definitely something that I hold very close to my heart. So, again, thank you for answering that one. Um, to kind of shift back a little bit to talking about job loss maybe, but more of the human intelligence side of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so is AI changing the way humans work in their day-to-day jobs and or have they become too reliant on AI solutions? I know myself, I utilize a lot of chat GPTs and different AI solutions out there right now. So is that something that you've seen or what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's really just yeah, and when you go on the job loss, right? That's definitely a fear for people losing their job due to
Yeah.
automation. AI is definitely more in automation, but and I've mentioned this before, like AI being the ability to enhance your job. But from your lens, what you're talking about here is the loss of human intelligence. And honestly, like you've even talked about using other platforms such as ChatGPT. I use it daily just to answer simple questions. It's good to help build a presentation too. Like if you really think
Yeah.
about it, it can start to do so many things for you. Is it going to be perfect? No. And that's when the bias came in before, right? Like it's not going to give you all the information. You're going to have to use your knowledge to actually build it out. But yeah, let's say like, yeah, I mean, you're using those things and that becomes your daily work. You're reliant on them, right? You don't want to be reliant on that stuff. We don't want to lose our human intelligence while we're working in these jobs in the first place, making those strategic business
Yeah.
decisions for your company. Yeah, and again, you can use it to build, a PowerPoint for you if you really wanted, or like you said, answering a simple question. A lot of developers out there really go out there and say, hey, can you fix this syntax for me? Well, what it might do when it fixes a syntax is it might fix that one error that you asked it to, but it might create 50 others. So just not relying fully on AI is what I'm getting at, right? Like, for example, like if you're going to build a simple, you know, document understanding or reading contracts, like that's fine. It can read it for you. The model's good enough to do that. But if you're going to start like asking questions about, just various aspects of that contract, and it can do that for you. But what I'm saying
Yeah.
is just don't rely on it to have those conversations or, about it. So like, yeah, I mean, that's definitely the biggest thing is you want to grow with AI is what I'm getting at. Like loss of human intelligence, you want to grow and you want to learn about it. We don't want to be left behind and have AI rely to make all our decisions, right? And
Yeah, of course.
that's where the training comes into play, right? I mean, we talked earlier about data and security and having training around that and how to, be prepared for implementing AI. by enhancing your current data and infrastructure and security, but also you got to enhance your employees. You got to teach them and educate them on, just not even just simple AI 101, but how to use it and how to use it effectively. You're not just going to implement AI just to implement AI in your business. There has to be good,
Yeah.
efficiencies to gain, ROI to gain. So there's reasons behind that as well. So
Yeah, of course. But would you say that there are anyone, like any companies that you've worked with, any people that you know that have maybe become a little bit too reliant on AI solutions? And how would they maybe, I don't know, change that about themselves? Like, yeah, obviously you said training or something like that, but like,
yeah.
is there is there a little bit any more specific way of like training their brain to not use AI as much, or is that a good thing to use AI a lot?
Yeah, and that's honestly that's a really good question, Nate. And yeah, and I understand where you're coming from. It's getting to the point where I think as we grow and as AI starts to grow and become more a part of our lives,
Yeah.
is it's not just training the employees on what the systems are, what are the technologies we're using, how do we use them, what use cases can we attach them to, but really start to train, and start to learn how to, yeah, as you said, like how to make it applicable in your job and how to use it effectively, right? And it gets back to the point of like we just don't want to use AI just to use AI. We don't want to just implement AI in our business just because we have it on our roadmap. There has to be a reason behind it, right? I mean, there's no reason to implement AI and spend all that money if you're not going to get any proficiency and productivity gains in the end. So
Yeah.
that's probably the most important thing, but it's again it's growing with AI. And again, right now, haven't really seen it with a customer using AI too much, because what you really got to think about is it's sort of a phased approach, right? You start with kind of mitigating automation, right? That's kind of the initial piece, and then you want to go into predictive analytics, and then eventually autonomous ERP with a machine learning. If you talk about digital systems actually reaching out and doing things for you, right? And
Right.
again, that's good for like good remedial tasks. A lot of times we build out digital systems, we talk about, it being a college level intern and doing those kind of things for you. But again, it's still not going to be smart enough, especially at this point, to do those very detailed, very strategic based work. So again, you can kind of see how some of this stuff is tying together, because then this ties back to loss of human intelligence, job automation, but just kind of the remedies behind that. Like again, it's definitely all about growing and with the AI and the new features that come out every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so gotta look out for that. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that I was a college intern.
Yep.
So definitely as start utilizing AI, even as those types of roles and everything like that, it could really save you in a lot of places, I'm sure, but also I mean, it's cutting edge right now. Everybody's talking about
Exactly.
AI, so I'm sure. Um, but talking more, a little bit deeper about AI, what are AI hallucinations? Like how can JD Edwards users prevent inaccurate or misleading AI generated insights?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this comes up a lot when we talk to customers, and it's really just when a model generates the response that's like false or misleading. So when you think about this, you're really talking about, if you're looking at JD Edwards data in particular, if flagging a transaction, let's just talk about that. That is a threat, right? And it's really not, right? The AI agent runs through information about, company policies and returns information that may be inaccurate, right? And what this really comes around at is that your models are not trained as effectively as they need to be, and it starts just grabbing data just to grab data, and it's not correct, right? And it's not, they're inaccurate. Yeah, they're all inaccurate results, right? um, a company's stock may have increased when it actually didn't. Like, I don't know. I mean, you start looking out, and
Yeah.
that's what you get when you start using some of these tools out there. And it always comes back to the point of like, wherever your data is coming from, make sure it's reliable, make sure it's flushed out, make sure you have all the correct information in there, because your model's only as good as the data it's trained on, and that's the biggest thing here. So to prevent hallucinations, to prevent incorrect or misleading data, especially to your business users that are maybe working with a digital assistant, right, and asking various questions, you don't want them giving incorrect information from that digital assistant and passing it on to a customer. That's the biggest thing, is to be very preventive about it, be proactive about when you're building out the model, not trying to, again, not trying to get too technical, but make sure it's the right model that's training with the correct data. That's the biggest thing, right? And then we're going to prevent those hallucinations, those misinformed data, because in the end, you're using your reliable data sources in house. It could be third party, but I'm talking just whatever
Yeah.
data source you use. It's gone through by you. It's good, reliable data that you can use, and it's not going back to ChatGPT out there. It's not just out there, right? And it's not just grabbing data that may be old, right, or incorrect, and trying to throw it together to get you a good response, right? So we
Yeah.
just got to be mindful of that, and just again, just harping on using reliable data sources wherever those may come from, up to date and trained data sources.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're completely correct about that thing. You never really know what's happening behind the walls of a lot of these different chatbots and
Yeah,
different AI solutions that are out there. So, I mean, it's
yeah.
definitely reliable if you know where the data source is actually coming from. So, thank you for those insights. Seriously.
And
Uh,
it definitely comes back real quick, just to add one more point. It
yeah, of
definitely comes
course.
back to, just again, having those subject matter experts, working
Yeah.
with these models, right? They understand the data better than everyone. Having them in the loop when you are training these models and understanding what you're training, they will understand the data more than any developer, data scientist, or anyone putting together these models. So having their feedback and understanding what data should be displaying
Hmm.
when you run a model and you get a report back, or you're talking with the digital assistant and you're getting insights back, making sure that data is very correct. So it's a lot of just overlaying fact checking, right? That
Yeah.
a human could be a part of at the beginning, and then again, as the model grows, you know stronger, more complete, correct, right, gets more confident, because that's what it's going to need, a lot of training. Then you can start to weed off that human that's been working with it every day, and then it can start making decisions on its own. So
Yeah, of
talk
course.
again about how jobs can be influenced with AI rather than you know
Yeah.
hurt by them. So yeah,
Yeah, well, incredible. I mean, so past this, obviously, people will be able to see this online and everything, but is there another event or something like that that ERP Suites is putting on that maybe someone that is trying to learn about AI solutions or maybe dive in a little bit deeper into what AI and JD Edwards kind of looks like? Is there something out there that
oh
maybe
yeah.
we can sign up for, register for, or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's an AI week event put on by ERP Suites. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so what's great about that is anybody can really join, whether it be the C level, the directors, right, the business analysts, the heavy core developers, right, that work with JD Edwards every day. It's for really everyone. There's a few different tracks along that. So right, what we talked about today was kind of one of the tracks of getting started, learning about the AI risk and remedies, but then you can also talk about, different AI 101 components if you're really just starting with AI, because what you really want to think about is people start in different areas, right? Some might start looking at AI, might start working with technologies, but they don't know where to apply it. And then others might be starting from ground zero, right? So they need to know that
Right.
AI 101, as well as building out use cases is another example of just kind of that getting started track. But there's other ones that are great. There's hands-on workshops to work with various tools and technology. I kind of harped on before, but just understanding contracts and feeding contracts through an AI document understanding is one of them, right? There's other ones that use generative AI to read, compliance
Yeah.
documents, or CSR for training CSR, reading those documents, as well as other functional tracks, right? Like where can you implement AI in your manufacturing, in your inventory, in your sales, finance? When can you start to implement those? So that's also another track. And then there's a few other keynote speakers that are very important from Oracle.
Yeah.
Hike.io is another partner of ours, and then as well as ERP Suite. So you'll hear from a lot of different people as well on kind of their various solutions and products they're building out. But really,
Right.
again, how to get started, how to really start to enhance AI and use it in your business. So a great
Yeah.
event, by the way. Didn't mention at the beginning, it's free, right? So anybody can join, online, virtual, free event. So just
Yeah.
wanted to put that out there for you guys as well, because I think
Yeah, of
that's a
course.
great place to start.
Yeah, of
No
course.
matter where you are on your AI journey, it will help you.
Yeah, I'll make sure to add the link below for registrations and everything like that. But I also heard that you had Paul Hout Cooper there.
Absolutely.
Incredible mind. Can't wait to learn more from him, and especially with that stuff. I mean, he knows this business. He knows JD Edwards. So very excited to hear what he has to say during his keynote speaking. I mean, He's definitely a great man, obviously, but he's very knowledgeable when it comes to everything when it like JD Edwards, Oracle, and AI. So very excited about that. But thank you for joining us. Seriously, it really does. I really do appreciate it having a close friend on the first podcast, which is incredible.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
please like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. More content coming soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks for having me, Nate. You go put up 30 this weekend.